Alpha
Omega.
Frater Faust says, I see conversation in the private Facebook group about LBRP, Lesser Banishing Roots of the Pentagram, and Kabbalistic cross in circumstances where you cannot physically be as loud as you normally would in other moments. My instinct says to lean into the astral and imagine it being as loud as possible when calling God names, etc. Yet I see a lot of conversation about everything being super by the book. What are your thoughts in practicing these things in more physical silence, but in more astral power? It's possible to do the rituals just vibrating the names inwardly. But remember that physical vibration has a real energy. So when you're vibrating the cells of your body with your voice, you're actually doing something. And when you take that out, you're taking part of the power of the magic out.
Yes. You need to be physically engaged in order for magic to work. Magic requires the tool of your physical body. All the electrochemical salt water sloshing around is important, and it helps move the energies. And as you project these sounds, let me start with an example.
Mm-hmm.
We've all seen how you can take a wine glass and set it in front of a speaker.
Right.
And when you have the right volume and the right tone, the glass shatters. Now, why is that? Well, that's because sound waves do things to physical material. Do you see why I give you this example? If you are not doing the actual vibrations, then there's no chance that you're going to cause anything to break or even to shift within yourself at a physical level. So, although it's good, it's all right occasionally to vibrate inwards, it's really necessary to do it externally.
It's really important. It's really important that
Sit
you do
in
it
your
externally.
car and do it.
Right. Now, that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. First of all, yes, if you have no other alternative and you have to do it inwardly, you can do it. I've done middle pillar on the subway before. You know, of course you can do it. It's not as powerful, but it certainly can be done. Now, with that said, you do have a couple of other possibilities. One of them is to go like to a park or something like that and see how that works out.
Yes.
I mean, you see a lot of Chinese doing Tai Chi Chuan in parks all the time. Well,
oh, sure.
Ritual magic isn't all that different.
Right.
It doesn't have to be hidden away in the temple closet.
No, and since you don't actually have to use the dagger, you can use your finger instead. There's no
Right.
sort of violation of any town codes that could be possible.
Exactly.
They don't have a problem with you sticking your finger in the air, I hope.
Right, right. So, I mean, these are things that it's just the way it is. And there are different options. For example,
Yes.
another alternative is when you live in a house that's in close quarters, you've got nowhere really where you can practice magic. What about your car? Like Leslie said.
Right.
A car is a great idea. In a car, you can make all the noise you want and you bother nobody but yourself.
That's right.
I mean, no more bothering anyone than you are with the radio when it's turned up loud on bad music.
Right.
You know, so I mean, so these are your options. That's a very good question. Thank you very much for asking that.
And it's an important one because, you know, I notice a lot of, especially the beginning students when they're
Right.
first starting, they're very cautious. They're almost afraid of their own voices.
Right. They get very, very caught up in minutia and excuses not to do the practice.
Right. When in fact, all you need to do is stand up and start
Do the
vocalizing
practice.
and doing things.
Right.
Right.
Kyle wants to know, how important is it to get the entire ritual perfect as opposed to just getting it done?
Oh, wow. Yes, very good question.
It's a very good question. The most important thing is to get it done.
Yes.
And if you make a mistake, you could start over if you want to. For example, you know, you see our ritual in the morning. You've probably seen it. You've probably been there. That's a lot of names. There are 12 names going around, plus there are 3 opening, 3 closing. And to remember each and every one of those and not make a mistake sometimes is difficult, especially first thing in the morning without breakfast.
Yes. We always do that ritual fasting. It gives it more power that way.
Right. It inevitably happens while you're doing your ritual practice that you're going to make a mistake. And it happens to me too. If you'll notice, if you've been watching it all those videos, you'll notice that when I do make a mistake, usually what I do is I catch it right there and I correct myself. And then after I vibrated the wrong name, I vibrate the correct one.
Yes.
It's a way of fixing it on the fly.
Very rarely do you need to actually stop the ritual for a fatal error.
Right.
For example, if you drop your tool, if you fall down, if you trip over your robes and you stumble and fall, that's a good time to restart the ritual. Because what that shows is that there's either a lack of focus on your part or a need to recast the LBRP for added protection.
Right. What is the most accurate vibration of the God name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh? That is one of the best questions that people have been pondering over for thousands of years.
Oh, I know a Buddhist parable that talks about that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, not vibrating that particular name, but when it comes to the correct pronunciations. And the story goes, there was a very enthusiastic student who went to the cave of the most important mystic in his county, and he was determined that he was going to find out how he became enlightened. And so he went to the cave and he sat down and he saw the old man there, and the old man was muttering something, mumbling something, and he listened very closely. He listened very closely. And then he said, "But, Guru, I thought you said it like this." And then he repeated the mantra a different way. And the old man looked at him and said, "Oh, I've been doing it wrong all these years. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your help." And the young student was flabbergasted. That's it. I'm done here. He got up and he stomped off and he went back to his boat and he's rowing across the lake. He's going to go back to his house. He's very upset. And he looks behind him and he sees the monk walking up to him across the water. And he's astonished. And he looks at him slack-jawed. And the guru looks at him and says, "I'm sorry, could you please pronounce that correctly for me one more time?"
That's quite good, actually.
So, that being said, have we talked about how important your intention is when you say things?
Exactly. Your intention is extremely important. It's really what colors everything.
Even your day-to-day life is colored by how you think it is going.
Steve wants to know, I haven't seen a lot about LBRP and LIRH in the neophyte, or LIRP and LIRH in the neophyte curriculum. Should we be doing these? Oh my goodness. Look, guys, don't complicate things. For the beginners, don't overthink things. There's this whole debate about whether one should do the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram in the morning or the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram in the morning. I would suggest that over time you try both. Note, I said over time.
Yes.
Not in the beginning. In the beginning, you should stick to a very, very simple regimen.
Yes.
Do not try to complicate it. Do not try to overthink it. Do not try to keep adding in things. For example, there is absolutely no reason as a new neophyte that you need to be doing the lesser ritual of the hexagram and the analysis of the keyword. Completely superfluous in the beginning. All you need in the beginning is the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and the rite of the middle pillar. Now, those two are absolutely critical. They're very important.
Yes.
Because what you're doing is you are using the magnetism of your physical body to attract the Lux energy, the God Force energy all around you. So you're feeding your soul with middle pillar, quite literally. Now, sure, you can do a whole bunch of other rituals, even in the basic rituals like the Rose Cross ritual. Like I said, at length you'll want to do those things. But you should spend at least 6 months just doing lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and the rite of the middle pillar. That will be plenty. Get them down like learning your ABCs until they become second nature.
Right, because then you know what the energies feel like when they're running correctly. You learn how that feels when things are moving in the right way. You know when you have something down. You know when it's smooth. And the only way you find this out is with practice. I can't emphasize to you enough, Magic is the most beautiful musical instrument you could ever pick up. It is worth more than any Stradivarius you might find. And it is capable of miracles as well. But like the Stradivarius, you must practice. I don't know if any of you know this about violin players, but playing the violin is painful. You cut your fingers, and when they're cut, too bad. If the song's not over, you have to keep playing. They will put, just like guitar players and drum players, violinists will put super glue on their fingers to try and build up those calluses faster so that they continue to practice.
Wow.
So practice, practice, practice. If you want to do more and you've already finished your practice, do your practice again. If you want more, do it again. Exactly the same way. Do it again until you have a belly full. That's how you get really good. Do you know how many times I've played a C scale on a saxophone? I don't. That's how many times I've done it. Because you have to do it over and over and over and over. Whenever you get depressed or think that, oh, this magical practice is too much, I want you to think back to a baseball player or somebody who plays a musical instrument. Those people are really putting in hours and hours and hours of practice. Actual practice, not lifting weights. No, how much time does a baseball player spend lifting weights? Well, in the winter, quite a bit. But in the summer, when it's the season, they hardly ever touch a weight unless it's for rehab. And that's because that is secondary. That's a secondary practice. Necessary in baseball, secondary practice. The primary practice is throw the ball, catch the ball, hit the ball, run away from the ball. Simple.
Ray says, hey, my question is, after we do the invocation of the highest divine force, do we apply the same method of divestment as we do with God forms? Not usually, because you're not actually assuming a God form with that invocation of the highest divine force. What you're doing is you're actually satisfying the requirement of the Golden Dawn to, in any important magical working, I shall always invoke the highest divine name therewith first.
And that's something that was actually copied wholesale by almost every Wiccan group I've ever been around. It's a very, and most pagans don't realize that they're borrowing that from the Golden Dawn. But in fact, whenever you cast a spell, witches will cast spells,
right,
especially today because it's full moon. And when they do, many neo-pagans will call for the spell to activate to the greatest good possible.
Right.
And that's going along these same lines of borrowing.
Now, here's another thing. Let's make it a little easier for you. Look, it's really hard to do a daily practice and not miss a day. It's really tough. We've been doing it for a little over 2 years now without ever missing a day and live streaming it. So, yeah, we certainly know what it's like. And especially in the morning, it gets awful early in the summertime and awful cold in the wintertime.
Yes.
But I would recommend that you begin your practice and you do middle pillar once a day, whenever you've got time to do the practice, beginning and ending with the LBRP. Then, in addition to that, you might want to do a quick LBRP when you first get up in the morning, like brushing your teeth. So it's really the best way, and it's the easiest way. But what do you do if you miss a day?
Miss a day?
Lucky for you, we don't miss a day. So
that's right.
On the day, and what we're working with in the morning is exactly the same energy, and it's extraordinarily powerful because we're there at the hour of sunrise.
Yes.
When the sun is fresh.
Yes.
So what I would suggest is on those days when you just can't make it to your practice, at least watch our ritual that day.
Yes.
As a substitute. Because that will keep your energetic development going without missing a day. It's as though you hadn't missed a day.
And it's something you can do while you're standing in line at the checkout.
Right.
Because it only takes 20 minutes to watch us. Sometimes 25. It depends on
the day.
On the day, if one of us gets inspired.
Usually about 20 minutes, 15 to 20.
Which is about how long any daily practice should take.
And middle pillar might take half an hour. To do the LBRP, middle pillar, LBRP closing, 30 minutes is about a minimum, 30 to 45 altogether. And when would you suggest the new practitioners start doing the Kabbalistic cross?
Immediately.
Ah, good. You'll notice that I didn't mention the rite of the Kabbalistic cross, and there's a reason for that. The reason I didn't mention the rite of the Kabbalistic cross is because it's part of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram.
Yes.
You do it at the beginning and the end. Now, the rite of the Kabbalistic cross is like the very first thing you're going to learn together with the grade signs, the neophyte grade signs. Now, the rite of the Kabbalistic cross, the purpose of that ritual is to center yourself inside the light around you. So you're vibrating light from above to below, from right to left, and around. For the morning ceremony, is it necessary to have a pre-LBRP set into motion beforehand? Okay, good question. I always recommend that students do an LBRP always before doing the middle pillar, because you're setting up a protective circle around yourself.
Yes.
So you're safe, because the middle pillar is huge light, creates a huge light on the inner planes. And it's like at night, if you leave the door open and you've got lights on inside, you're going to attract moths or bugs.
Or coyotes.
Or coyotes, right. So it's better to always cast a circle first by doing an LBRP and then do another LBRP at the end to banish anything that might have been attracted by the ritual.
Yes.
All right. Not pointing a dagger towards earth during Malkut or other rituals. What is the correct way? I was taught by Chris Manostra never to point a dagger toward the earth. Now, after many years of practice in the Golden Dawn, I question that. I think that was a judgment call by Rigardi, and I think he might have been wrong. You see, this idea of never pointing something toward the earth actually comes from the second order, and it comes from the lotus wand.
Yes.
You know, the lotus wand, they say the light end of the lotus wand should never be pointed toward the earth, only the dark end. Well, there are two ends of it.
Yes.
There's the light end of the dark end, and you use the dark end to banish and the light end to invoke as well.
Yes.
So there it makes a lot of sense. But when you're doing the Kabbalistic cross and you're bringing the light from above to below and then from side to side, and you're actually projecting that light downward, it doesn't make sense to have the dagger at the level of your sexual organs pointing up and catching it there. It makes no sense at all.
No.
I say like this and all the way down.
Yes.
And then here. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. You could go like this, the way that Rigardi says, hold it up. But I would suggest you take it all the way down, and then you touch your shoulders. Or the other thing you could do is you can go all the way out, so that you see. The important thing is that you actually stream that light energy in those directions.
Yes.
So that you're learning to move the lux. From the very beginning, you're learning to move the lux energy.
Yes, because that is the most important thing.
Phoenix says, the instructions for the invocation of the highest divine force suggest formulating one's own invocation as soon as possible. My question is, does the invocation need to be the same every time, or can it change each time as the magician and their experience evolve? You know, Phoenix, this calling upon the highest divine force at the beginning of each ritual is something that is uniquely personal in nature. I hesitated to even give a ritual that one can use for this in the Ritual Magic Manual. But since there is so much emphasis on doing this at the beginning of every important working, I put something.
Right.
But I put it with that proviso that you should come up with your own as well, because it should be uniquely personal to you. I mean, for a Christian, the highest divine force, it will be conceived different than for a Jew, certainly different than for a Muslim, also different than a Buddhist. I mean, it's completely different. This is one thing that you need to adapt for you.
Yes. And it's the one place where you can allow your imagination to blossom. All the impulse that you had to do new workings inside the LBRP and improve this of the LIRH finds its manifestation in this ritual.
Now, all of these questions are very good, but there's a tendency, not saying that it's you, but we all have the tendency to continue to study, to stay in our head, to keep learning more, to be asking intellectual questions. And the more complicated, the better.
Right.
And then if this is not complicated enough here with the ritual of the pentagram, let's grab the rose cross ritual.
And put it in.
Yeah, make it even more confusing.
Yes.
So that it's complicated and complex. The problem with that is you wind up so often becoming nothing more than an armchair magician.
Right.
You don't want that. You don't want to be an armchair magician. You want to be a real magician. You want to be doing magic. And to do that, you've got to get the energy to flow. You've got to learn to move the Luke's energy.
Yes.
You have to fill your soul with God force.
Yes.
That's the whole point of high magic. High magic is all about the cultivation of soul, all about the cultivation of your energetic nature, all about the cultivation of your energy body. And if you're not cultivating your energy body, if you're just sitting around with a bunch of ideas in your head like before, it's not helping you much.
Right, right.
This is why I always tell people, and I tell you too, because there's so many new people here. Most of us are busy, very busy people, and there's only so much time we can dedicate to something like the Golden Dawn and Golden Dawn practice. I would strongly suggest that instead of kicking around inside the curriculum and browsing through a lot of intellectual material, and there's plenty of that, that you spend the time that you have available for the Golden Dawn doing Middle Pillar and Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram so that you will actually get something for your time.
Yes.
You will certainly notice results. If you practice this with discipline, just very shortly, very short amount of time, you'll start noticing changes.
Discipline, practice, repetition. Discipline, practice, repetition. You see?
Right.
That's where the learning happens. The learning happens in doing it over and over and over and over.
Have you ever wanted to gain real magical abilities so you can become the master of your destiny?
Do you wish you could get the ancient secret key for free so you can build the life of your dreams?
If you've wanted more out of life, to become all that you can be, physically, romantically, financially, spiritually, then you need to take action and get this right now.
That's right, and for free, but it won't be available for much longer.
So go right now to thescienceofmiracles.com and get started. Achieve the prosperous life you want for yourself. Gain ultimate life mastery.
Are you familiar with the Rosicrucian with what's his name? He's popular in the States. He's the president or the
Emperor.
Imperator.
The president.
Emperor.
Imperator.
From the Golden Dawn. What's his name?
Oh. David Griffin holds this position as Emperor.
Imperator.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Have David Griffin.
I saw an email yesterday that he sent out about, there's a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
Demons of the infernal realm. I'm all of them.
There is really a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
There is a guy called David Griffin who is heading all these magicians.
David Griffin is S.L. McGregor Mather's present successor.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
I'm Golden Dawn Imperator David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Now David Griffin.
There's a magical war going on.
So there is really a magical war going on.
Alpha